Hi, I'm Becky Meagher, and welcome to Transitions, Body, Mind, Spirit. Transitions, we all go through so many transitions in our life, and I like to use the metaphor of triathlons. Something I just did 2 weeks ago in Louisville, a sprint. So in a triathlon, the first thing you do is you swim, and then you go to a transition area, and then you bike. More on that. And then you transition again and you run. So our life is like that, and in an amazing event called the Tour de France is what our topic is, and we have two experts from different fields that are here. Our first one is Todd Nordmeyer, who owns Endeavor Performance. And Endeavor Performance is an amazing place that I go bike to get ready for those triathlons. And then we have our second guest, and they'll be doing fun things, talking, is Will Onstadt, who is a PhD teacher of literature and bon vivant, and is going to provide color to all the amazing things that we're going to find out about the Tour de France. So, welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks for having us.
All right. So, first of all, Todd, you were a professional bike rider, a professional.
Yeah, a competitive cyclist.
Competitive cyclist, okay. And tell us a little bit about Endeavor Performance, and then we'll get into the Tour de France, but we need to know a little bit about your expertise.
So the background from cycling as a cyclist to I just turned into a cycling coach, and that coach sort of led into this facility that I have. It's called Endeavor Performance, the Performance Center. And it basically just allows people to come in and really just have specialized services to help them perform better on the bike and even on the run, as well as services that just improve comfort on the bike.
Okay, all righty. And then you, Will, you are there, and tell us about your experience at his place and how it's helped shape you in your robust.
Right. Yeah. Sure. Well, just first off, I'm not a former professional cyclist. I am strictly an enthusiast, and I really there was just this guy at work that he rode too, and I wanted to be faster than he was, and Todd was, had done a bike fit for me, so it's let's nail this down, and so yeah, I go in 3 times a week, and he just throws me in the pain cave, and it's great. Yeah. So I mean.
And explain what it is. I mean, you're there, you're sitting on the bike, you're seeing a screen.
Sure. Essentially, you go in and you throw your bike on what's called a turbo trainer, and the program that Todd uses measures how many watts you're putting out at a given cadence, and it's controlled by a computer. So I guess we would say the resistance on the wheel changes, and it mimics going
up mountains.
Yeah, climbing on the road or things like that. Sure.
Yeah. Okay, very good. All right. Well, now we know all our qualifications here. Now let's talk about the Tour de France, which I watch, and there's the Tour de France Femme also. I want to make sure that we put that in. The women are out there. But the Tour de France just finished a couple weeks ago. And I was sitting there watching going, I don't understand. So let's start from the very beginning. Tell us what the Tour de France is, where is it, how long it takes, and then we'll deal down from there.
So if you go back in time, I mean, the Tour de France actually started as a basically just an advertising for a newspaper.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, back I think it was 1903, 1904. So it's basically just saying, we have this newspaper and it's not doing so well, so let's create something, and it was a bicycle event. And that's what happened to the Tour de France. And so it's been going on since then, except for I think there's a couple times during the World War I, World War II where it had not gone on. But for the most part, it's been going on since then. So it is in France, though they start in different countries now. And that's just obviously like what we would do, like the National Football League, what they're doing now. They're having some games playing in England, some games playing in Mexico, so they're trying to increase the audience and engage more people into the sport. So every year they might start somewhere else. They started in Denmark this year.
Okay.
And every year they go one direction, and the next year they go in the opposite direction. This year they went clockwise.
Okay.
So next year they're going to go counterclockwise in terms of the route.
They started in Denmark and then eventually got to Paris.
Yeah, they always end in Paris. At least.
Always?
Yeah.
Okay.
At least the men do right now.
All
the
right.
women started actually in Paris.
So how many days is it?
It's typically 21 days, and they take 2 rest days
Okay.
in that 21 days.
Okay.
So it's 3 weeks.
So approximately how many miles a day is it?
It averages, but for the most part, they're going in mileage. They're going anywhere between 80 to 120 miles. Sometimes some of the stages or some of the days are 140 miles.
Wow.
So yeah.
Okay. All right.
You said Tour de France. I thought we agreed we were going to say Tour de France.
Oh,
said
I
Tour de
didn't say.
France.
I didn't say. I said Tour de France.
How did you say we were
Is
going
it
to say
Tour de
You said
France
you
or
were.
Tour de
I thought we agreed.
He wanted.
say
He
Tour
wants
de
to-
France.
Yeah.
Never mind. Go ahead. I'll amend.
Yes. All right. So the idea is every day there's a stage, right? Okay. So there's a stage, and explain. There's a stage winner. So every day there's a winner of the stage, but then there's some races within the stage. Within that day, there's a separate little race in there, right?
I would call it a competition within the race, within that stage.
Okay.
Now the competition, yeah, it is a competition where people have to race. Race is the way I define race. What race would be? Hey, we got a line. We have a finish line, and I'm trying to get I'm trying to be across the line, that first place. So we're all racing to that line. Now there are lines within the finish line. Like might be a line that's halfway to the finish that you get points or you get bonuses. And so that's a race to that competition, for that competition.
Okay. All
yeah.
right. So do you
I
have
can
any
sort of jump in
comments on
too.
that?
From the perspective of somebody who's just watching it on television, right?
Yeah.
If you're sort of, you come in and maybe you end up and like you're watching the third stage and you've never watched the Tour de France before,
Right.
and it's just all these guys in this huge group,
The
racing.
peloton. It's
Yeah.
like, what is the peloton?
But we'll talk. Yeah, but that's the huge group of guys riding together. That's what it is, the peloton, and then that's where the spin bike gets its name. But I think what you're asking, and what Todd's saying about the competition thing is, like, if you think about the Tour de France, and of course, stop me if I'm wrong, because I'm going to be. You can think about the race in the larger race, right? The whole thing, the 21 stages. The person who has the fastest time over those 21 stages is the yellow jersey guy, right? He's the guy who wins, right? But every day, you can think about those stages as individual races, or as Todd referred to as competitions, right? Where you have somebody who wins that every day and they're on the podium, right? And so even within those smaller, so you can think about it like 21 smaller races or 21 smaller competitions, and then within that, what he was talking about, points jerseys, right, or points, you didn't say points competitions. Mm-hmm. Again, there are even smaller races, if we want to say that, within those races, which are either designated for climbers or for sprinters, right? And I don't know. The thing that works out great about that, I mean, is that it keeps the whole thing exciting over the 21 days because you've got, in a sense, certain amount of competition starts over every day, right? I mean, they don't have a staggered start or anything like that. There's a group mass start, or well, they lead them out, but anyway. So you've got there are things on the line every day, all right? And I'm sure it keeps it, a bit spicier for the racers as well to have all of these things for the riders to have all of these things that are going on, as opposed to just a general classification where we're trying to see who wins, the overall time or something like that. Anyway.
So each stage has its competition. So from your viewpoint as a former professional competitive cyclist, just one stage, like if you were there doing one stage, can you explain the tactics involved? Because we're talking about a team. That's the confusing thing for me too. There's a team, and they have but they're made up of people from all different countries, and that team helps maybe the one person that they think will win the thing. Anyway, explain.
Yeah. So I mean, they give it in terms of the sports that we're comfortable talking about, which is basketball, just for an example. So in a basketball team, you have your superstars, right? You have the ones that can score the goals, make the points, and you have other ones that are just going to do a lot of assisting. And that's how it is in the Tour de France. I mean, you have teams where people are hired, guys and women are hired just to help the superstars, and there are superstars. I mean, like any sport, you have a pecking order, and that's really what you have. So some of these teams, when they go into the Tour de France, they're saying, hey, we're going for the general 21 stage race. The general classification. That's for the 21 stages. It has the basically the lowest amount of time over those 21 days is the Tour de France winner from the general classification. Or the team might say, you know what, we don't really have one that's going to do that well, so let's go for a different competition. And so let's build a team to help one or two riders win that competition. So that's where the magic happens, is because you have different competitions, like Will said, and then you have teams that are focusing on those competitions. You might have a team that says, you know what, we don't really have a person that's going to win any of the competitions, so let's just go for a stage win, which is a day. One day. Yeah,
the whole team aims for one day?
Well, yeah, it could be the team is saying, hey, and they even go take it down like, hey, we know the route. We know on this day it's going to go finish here. We know that, hey, we have the best chance of winning. Weeks before the Tour de France starts, we have this, and there's riders out there that are looking at the map thinking, yeah, that's the day for me, and they're making a decision like, okay, let's plan around that. So there's that. I mean, it's definitely. I mean, to win even a stage on the Tour de France is considered the best. I mean, because it's the best competition. I mean, it is the best ever. I mean, every year there's the best ever. That's why it's so big. I mean, it's like, I mean, it's you see it. I mean, these guys are magicians and on the bike.
It's unbelievable. When I was talking to you, Will, before, it's like, how did you even get interested in even watching the Tour de France? And you said Lance.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
He's
love him or like him.
That's right.
Don't watch this, Lance.
No, right? Yeah. He's I might have said this before off camera. He's an unforgettable individual, but it's well worth the struggle. Anyways, no, I think a lot of people in the United States. Well, first off, it was the sort of end of high school, beginning of college for me, and previous to Lance Armstrong sort of hitting the world stage, it was really hard to watch cycling. You could watch. We oftentimes get highlights of the tour. You could never watch any of the classics races. I mean, unless you had some weird, Euro cable package. I've actually got one of the classics right here, the Roubaix race, which is like a one-day thing, which we'd never be able to watch, before. That. Now you can watch anything with the internet. But yeah, I mean, the having a guy who wins asterisk for 7 years. Interesting.
Piqued your interest,
yeah,
right?
He's a charismatic guy, at least in the press, and that's essentially how I initially got interested in watching it and sort of figuring out because of course then you could watch it on television. They were playing full stages and you could watch the whole thing on like ESPN 8 or whatever. So that's how I got interested in cycling initially, and then guys riding track bikes in college and bike messenger thugs and stuff like that. Like my track bike back
Your
here.
track bike here.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right. Okay. So let's even dumb down here, even more so on the details of the wins each day in the colors of the shirts, and there's even something called the domestique. That's somebody who gets brutalized or something. What is all that?
So yeah, domestique is basically those riders that are doing the assisting. They are saying, hey, when a team is formed, they're looking at the riders they have in that team, and they think, okay, who can we count on? Who is our best bet to help whatever goals we set out? And so there are, like I said, every team has a pecking order, and it's the riders that are in a mode or in their job is to assist other riders, and that's a domestique.
Yeah, domestique means servant.
Yeah, it's basically a servant. Yeah.
So they know they're not going to win. Their job is to help the chosen one, like block their wind, or I mean, what do they?
There are different ways that they can do it. I mean, it's not that they can't win. It's just that they're not being asked to win. They're being asked to perform at a high level, but it's not. If the opportunity exists, then they're going to take advantage of it, and that's that. I mean, that's obviously winning is number one, but they know up ahead, like, hey, we have this rider. This is our best chance. We will need these other riders to help that rider. Yeah, they can do other things. I mean, they can go back to the team car because there are team cars following the group. And those riders can go back to those cars and get bottles, get nutrition, and bring it up to the riders that are the superstars.
Okay. I would see they'd have a bag and they'd be giving out things to somebody.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll see a rider that's just. I mean, he's got a belly full of bottles and a back full of bottles.
Yes.
And he's giving them out to riders. And I mean, some of those guys are making this is the best day ever because they're doing that. And that's the kind of riders you want. I mean, you want riders that are thinking, man, go to war with me. And, and that's, I mean, it can be like that for the other sports that we're used to in America, basketball. I mean, you have these guys thinking, you know what, I know I'm a really good player, but we got this one guy and, he can, I mean, he's magic, so they're going to, you want those people that believe in that, and believe in the team thing.
And that's what those guys are hired to do as well. I mean, they're not under any illusions when they come into it. But you asking about keeping guys out of the wind. I mean, you asked earlier about the Peloton, and I think I kind of shifted and said we'd talk about that later. And then the whole concept of like this being an individual sport played by teams. I mean, the wind is a huge factor. I mean, and that's another reason for the formation of the Peloton, right? And so let's say like you've got a rider that's the person that this team is supporting, and maybe he's a climber, right? Just a pure climber. He looks like a jockey, tiny guy, right? Awesome in the hills. So maybe we've got the stage which is flat for a long time, and then we've got a big climb at the end of it or something, right? So we keep this guy out of the wind, saves the energy, right? So he's behind the other guys, right? And so he doesn't have to, is drafting him, essentially. And those guys will just cycle off and keep him, in the middle of the peloton. That's another reason that they all ride in the peloton, right? Because they're all keeping out of the wind, right, in the big group. And so this guy's saving his energy for this climb, right? He's not sort of burning it all up, and the team sort of helps him to do that. I mean, that's in one capacity that the team can work together to support a rider. I hope I'm not... I think that's right, anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, it is. It's right. I mean, there's a lot of things those domestiques can do. I mean, they could actually go into what's called a break, which is basically a group of riders that break from the peloton and they're ahead of the peloton.
I've seen that.
Yeah, so those guys, I mean, knowing that, hey, there's probably a good chance that we're going to get chased down, but I need to go out there and make sure that I'm in the break, my team is represented. And just in case, if I'm called upon, say if my leader of my team is in a situation where I need to fall back, I can fall back, which is a lot easier than trying to catch up with the team leader. So there's a lot of tactics going on there, and again, it's great publicity to be in a break and have your team jersey represented, and your name's going to get called out. And so, yeah, there's a lot of upside about being a domestique. And again, there's a lot of riders that just love, I say they love, I mean, that's a strong word, but they value that they are in that position.
And then I see at the end of a stage, and it's coming to the end, and all of a sudden, I don't know where they get the energy. You see people passing each other at the very end. I mean, like 100 miles there, and then bam, all of a sudden they appear, and sometimes they win. I mean, what's that all about? It's like they've been holding back.
Well, yes, some of them do hold backs. Some of them are so at that level you have specialists. You have a specialist that would be a sprinter, which means that they're sprinting to that line as a group in the last, we'll say 1 kilometer. Within 1 kilometer, they're starting to ramp up for that sprint to that finish line. So there's specialists that really do that well, and that's what you're talking about. You have these people that are doing the work, but you have the ones that are just waiting for the right time and just unleash fury on everyone else.
Yeah. And that's where the jerseys come from too, because the people have different specializations. Sprinters are stronger, more muscular guys. They do great on the flats, and of course, sprinting at the end. And then you have climbers who are, like I said before, kind of pure climbers, really built like jockeys, and they're just very skinny, very high strength to weight ratio. But anyways, we're going to talk about jerseys. What are we like?
What the polka dots and the
I got the polka dot hat on.
What's that all about?
Well, it is. I mean, what it is, it's engagement, right? There's specialists, so the Tour de France is an event. It's a money-making event. So it's promoted. It's a promoter. So what they're thinking, all right, how can we make money? How can we engage more people? How can we
make money?
Yes, that's what it comes down to. How can we engage more people? How can we get more sponsors? Because each jersey has a sponsor. Right, and there's all these different names and bicycle companies. Just the yellow jersey, which is the leader's jersey, I mean, that's sponsored by somebody, some company. Okay. And then on the green jersey, which is the sprinter's jersey, that's sponsored by a different company. Okay. So again, it's all like, hey, how can we get more sponsors? How can we get more money? How can we make this bigger? So anyway, there's that, but the fun side about it is that there are different jerseys that a leader of that competition wears in honor of that, and that's like you have the sprint jersey, which is the green jersey in the Tour de France. You have the polka dot jersey, which is the climber's jersey. So you have points that you gain at certain mountaintops, and you get points. And so whoever is leading at the end of that stage on that day, it gets the polka dot jersey. Okay. And just FYI, the reason why it's polka dot is because the first sponsor had bubblegum wrappers that were polka dot. There you go, a little known fact there. Yes. Wow. And that sort of stuck, which is great because it's a beautiful jersey. I mean, it's simple, but it's catching. And you also have this white jersey. So the white jersey is the leader who is under 25.
The youth.
Yeah. So it's like whoever is leading, whoever has the lowest amount of time up to that day gets the white jersey.
Okay.
And so you have the white, the yellow, and then the green and the polka dot.
Okay.
And those things can change hands. I mean, conceivably can change hands every day. I mean, if the overall time leader gets, a big chunk of time, that might be less likely to happen, right? Or the person who has the climber's jersey, as the race wears on, builds up a decent lead on whoever's next in terms of how many points that they get. But, conceivably, those things can change every day. And, you have the yellow jersey. I mean, for instance, what's interesting about that? I mean, not often, but I mean, it's not unheard of for the person who has the overall best time to never win a stage. I don't know the last time that's happened, but I mean, I believe it has, right?
We learned a whole lot today. Amazing. And I know I learned, and there's so many different aspects, and we just touched the surface. Mm-hmm. There's so much more. Maybe we'll have to have another show about how do these guys train to do this kind of stuff. I mean, when you watch on TV, the amazing amount of energy day after day after day, it's just unbelievable. And if anyone out there would like to learn to increase their fitness level, they can go to Endeavor Performance, and we'll have his website on there. It's a great place. I go, Will goes. We're in better shape for it. Thank you, Transitions, Body, Mind, Spirit. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Becky.
All right.